Welcome back, Fantasyland, to the GOAT District. Apologies for the short delay, but we are back. Whether you're doing fishbowl right now, shout out to the fish, wrong side. Whether you're doing some FFPC 100K, some 500K, whether you're doing your local league, the Canadian Best Ball Nationals right now going on, whatever you're drafting, we're not messing around. We want you to win, and that's what we're here for. And that's what our guests are here for. Tonight, we have another whale. We had Shark Week. We've got whales. We've just got fantasy beasts. And tonight is no different. We talk breakouts, rookies. Let's get.
District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Guys, welcome back to the district. Fantasy football goodness to help you win your league. And to help you win your league are my two GOATs. Guys, Dan, I see your mic muted, but I'm still going to you first, brother. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Just trying to, get a little bit of football in here and there over the summer. And, we're in that dead zone between the mini camps and training camp. And so, this is the time of year when you can pretty much safely ignore all the news because most of it's fluff. There's very little news coming out, and just stick to what you already knew coming out of the mini camps. So, there's definitely some money to be made right now.
Always some wise advice from the overhyped sleeper and the OG fantasy. My compatriot in the DMs talking some SFB strategy these days. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here with you guys. Excited for our guest tonight. And yeah, like Dan says, there's it's kind of silly season. With we see some funny blurbs and all that kind of deal. But I'm out in the streets drafting. I had a football guys the other day with our boy Shelly, half milli Billies, and just did a FFPC Rotowire online championship last night. So we're past 4th of July, man. This is the time to grind and get ready, because before you know it, it's going to be end of August, early September, and season's going to start. So I'm excited. Great time of year.
And that's it, guys. It's, look, it's July, right? So you're listening, you're watching, you're obviously serious, and you're serious about winning. And that's what we want to bring you guys, man, is just that edge to win these leagues that whether you're drafting or prepping to draft. Tonight, man, no different than the goodness we bring. We've been hitting home runs, guys, with the guests. Let's face it. Just guys who consistently win, who win big. And tonight, we have no different. You know him from Rotowire. Let me bring in him real slow. Mr. Mario Pruig. Did I say that right there, or did I mess it up?
You said it totally right.
Awesome. Mario, welcome to the district, brother. We appreciate you hanging with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, absolutely.
No, stoked to have you on.
So where are you coming from tonight? We see a little brewing. Is that a Brewers action on your hat there? That's one of my favorite logos. I don't know why. Ever since I was a little kid.
It's the best one. I don't know. It's because I'm in Madison that I'm a Brewers fan. It's not just for the style taste. I don't normally have that.
There you go. How long have you been in Madison for?
Oh, long time. I don't know, like 15 years, I guess, something like that.
Oh.
I'm from northern Wisconsin originally.
Okay. I don't know. For some reason, I always thought you were out east, and I don't know why that is, but you're.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't go far from here either. I rarely leave. I've only been like 5 other places anywhere.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm not too far away from you. I'm over in Minneapolis, so just about 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I like Minneapolis.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, Madison's a great town too. I mean, it's a fun place to visit.
Yeah.
So Mario, why don't I, for those who are not watching you on whether it's on YouTube or following you over there at Rotowire, just maybe give them an idea of what you're doing over there at Rotowire. Anything else that you're doing? I know you're big with interacting on social media. Just tell the people where to find you, the goodness you're doing, and give us a bit of a background.
Yeah, I've mostly focused, I guess, on kind of like prospect stuff for Rotowire's NFL section, and I used to run the college football area that my friend and colleague John McKechnie took over a couple of years ago. We kind of do like a tag team approach to a lot of our rookie kind of stuff, and there's other people, of course, that chip in, but me and John are kind of like the HQ components of that. On Twitter, I'm at Rotowire Mario. Yeah. It's about all I got going on.
No, it's enough, man. We're big fans, and that's why we wanted you on tonight. There's like we said, there's a lot going on. Maybe it's middle of July, but if you're into fantasy, there's a lot going on right now. There's some serious tournaments that you can be drafting for. There's the Fishbowl, just a lot of goodness right now to keep you busy. So we want to get into it. Maybe give us an idea of your I like to call it like your personal portfolio. Like when it comes to fantasy, do you play? Obviously, you play best ball. Do you play DFS? Do you play Dynasty? What formats do you like to play? What do you play, and what kind of quantities are we talking?
I guess I mostly do best ball. I used to play college football DFS quite a bit, but since getting moved to the NFL section for Rotowire, I just don't really have the time to research like I used to. And then in NFL DFS, I never really quite caught on as well as I did with college. So I don't really play that more than just kind of a couple, scratch off kind of mentality. I don't put much money into it. Most of the money I put in, I guess, each year is in best ball, and not like a high roller or anything. It's just like a few hundred something in this site, maybe a couple hundred more on another. But yeah, I don't have a ton of money or anything, and I don't really aspire to have a lot, so I'm not like a big time like the most expensive thing I'll do in a given year is probably like the 30 round NFFC best ball format, something like that, 350 or whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, man,
it's a fun one.
It's
for sure.
The buy-in is not always the deciding factor on the importance of the league, in my opinion, right? We have the GOAT leagues, and I know, those championships are sometimes feel as good as the ones that get you some 4-digit wins or some 5-digit wins, just the pride.
Yeah, I got a couple like hometownish like Rotowire kind of leagues too, but it's what is it, the stake league they got here, which is you got to pay the losing half of the tab at this one steakhouse here if you finish in the bottom half of the league. So that one actually that can determine like whether you have a good or bad year at Rotowire, because like having that tab sucks so much.
That's a tough one.
Yes, it is. I've heard about that league. So, and it's tough competition in there too. I mean, it's not like any of those guys can just roll over.
Yeah,
even a few of the tech guys are pretty sharp. So yeah, there's no like weakling for you to kind of like angle around and protect yourself. It's just tough every year.
Yep. Well, those are the best kind of leagues. I mean, first and foremost, fantasy should be about fun. I mean, if you're not having fun, why are you playing? the financial aspect of it is one thing, and a lot of people, that's a big part of their fun. But if that's the only thing you're getting out of it, you're kind of missing the boat. I mean, sit back and enjoy it a little bit, and you got to like what you're doing to really do well, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, for her, and that's a big reason, I think, any negativity, any people getting pissed off at other people about anything fantasy wise, I just don't get it, man. Like you were playing this for fun. I know you were competitive, and that's why we want to win. And, there's a prize and the pride and all that. But guys, some of these arguments people get into, it's like, relax, let's chill out a bit. Let's all be friends, like Barney said.
Yeah, that's a good one to live
by. All right, guys, before we get into the goodness, guys, we keep bringing the hits on a weekly, sometime bi-weekly. We're trying to plan a little surprise for tomorrow night, maybe get a little ball in, maybe a little live draft going on the FFPC for you guys tomorrow night. Smash the like, smash the subscribe. Make sure you go follow our guest tonight, Mr. Mario at Rotowire, Mario at Overhyped Sleeper, note we on the end at the OG Fantasy. Guys, let's get to the goodness. You know what? I'm going to pass this to Theo first. Theo laid out some good questions, so let's start there, my friend.
Yeah, so I really enjoy following and chatting with Mario in the DMs. I think that you get a lot of at the end of the summer, they kind of like everybody and nobody takes hard stands, but I know that you've taken some really hard stands on this rookie class. Spoiler alert, you're running back one, Travis Etienne. Maybe you could talk a little bit about these rookie running backs as a whole and how you see them making an impact, not only this year, but in their careers, especially with the guys at the top.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty weak class. ETN was the only one that I was really sold on, and I think there's plenty of good stuff going on with Najee Harris, plenty of good stuff with Javonte Williams, but I do think generally this class doesn't have what people wanted it to, and they wanted it to be more like last year when we had such a strong second round there with a bunch of guys that are now in the top 4 rounds of drafts going into 2021, and I just don't really see that talent there. I think like Javonte's good, but if he was going in last year's draft, he would have been like 3rd round pick. Certainly not going in that top 35 or whatever he did. He probably would have been going behind someone like Antonio Gibson, something like that in the 3rd round. So I feel like some of the market is maybe getting a little aggressive with some of the rookie running backs. Najee Harris aside, like he's going to get so much work this year, it's going to be pretty tough for him to fail. So it makes sense for him to be as expensive as he is. But yeah, it's like ETN. I expect him to be good, but James Robinson, he's pretty good too. So it's hard to see him getting off to a definite blazing fast start. And Javonte Williams, 212-pounder, runs a 4.57. He could be a pretty good NFL player. I guess, Kareem Hunt, he was probably something like 217 or 216 when he ran a 4.62, and he's obviously had a good NFL career. But as far as like the people who are kind of basing their valuation of him, Javonte that is, on the assumption that he's comparable to Nick Chubb, that's when you start to lose me, because there's just so many objective divergences in their profiles. 15 pounds heavier in Chubb's case, quite a bit faster in the 40, a 4.52 at the combine. So with stuff like that being so far apart with the objective details, it at the very least makes me anxious about his current, the current market that he has. It's like if people had said, this is the next Miles Sanders, the next David Montgomery, something like that, I'd say, yeah, you're pretty much right. And if that's the kind of comparison if that's all you need to kind of get to this current valuation that you have, then that theory makes sense. But the math, I think, is a little bit off, and I think it's kind of like we got a little bit attached to the kind of prospect volume of last year, and most running back classes aren't as good as last year. And this might be one of the worst running back classes of like this 5-year sample or something like that. So Trey Sermon could step up, but he's to me kind of like a rotational guy, probably like a 4th round, 5th round pick last year. So we'll see how it shakes out. Opportunity is the biggest thing. If any of these guys get on the field, they'll probably be pretty good. We'll see broader sample in a few years who turned out the best, and in the meantime, hopefully there's some lucky breaks that get them onto the field when everyone hopes they get there.
And I'll throw out Michael Carter. What are your thoughts on Michael Carter right now?
He's a good player. I guess with him, it's one of those things like we don't really know what the Jets, what NFL coaches in general are willing to put on him, being right around 5'8", 200. So at the very least, I think with how high people tend to be on Javonte Williams, like those people who are that high on Javonte Williams should also probably be pretty high on Carter, because he matched Javonte Williams' stride at North Carolina, started ahead of him the last 3 years, or last 2 years anyway. So Michael Carter's got to be pretty good, especially if Javonte Williams is good.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, and what's going to be interesting, I think, from this class is, if anybody kind of jumps up from out of nowhere or out of the, the later portions of our rookie drafts, like if, Chuba Hubbard or somebody like that ends up coming up and being real good. Do you have any favorite prospects that are, kind of down a little bit in the rookie rankings that you feel like were real good running back prospects that might make a splash?
Yeah, I guess Ramondre Stevenson's pretty interesting. It's just like one of those things. Belichick seems pretty stingy with rookie running backs a lot of the time. Like he didn't let James White play, didn't let Damian Harris play. But if Stevenson does get out there, he's pretty interesting just because he's big back who he's not fast exactly, but he's got light feet. He doesn't really look stiff as a player as big as him usually does, and he's got good hands. So pass catching work really could be there for him. And there's a little bit of a void with Burkhead being gone and not really replaced. So we'll see about that. I happen to think Kylan Hill is pretty good, and I think he might be pretty close to the field just because Aaron Jones, going back to his UTEP days, has gotten hurt quite a bit, actually. And I think Aaron Jones is really good. I don't think Hill can challenge him in terms of effectiveness. But if Aaron Jones were to get hurt, I could imagine Hill being kind of like the passing down back while A.J. Dillon is, of course, the lead runner in that scenario. But yeah, I'm not really on some of these guys. Like Chris Evans, I don't really believe in at all. I think Samaje Perine's going to be the backup there. Maybe Travion Williams stays ahead of Evans, something like that. Elijah Mitchell, I guess, is pretty interesting. Trey Sermon, some of the hype with him is pretty rational because, Raheem Mostert's probably going to be on the field, but A, he's injury prone, and B, he's not going to go above 12, 13 carries very often. And in the event that Mostert does get hurt, Elijah Mitchell with the 4.35 or whatever he ran, he's kind of like the next closest thing they have to Mostert. So if Mostert gets hurt, they might just have another one in Mitchell there. And that speed will definitely play if he has any sort of skill set to go with it. So there's always the running backs are generally replaceable, especially in fantasy, as long as they get enough snaps. And there's definitely a few of those guys, even in a weaker class like this, who if they see the field, they can do some stuff. It's more like, are they good enough to really force it, or do they need a bunch of injuries to make it happen? I guess. I meant to say I also like Kenny Gainwell. I think he went a little too late. I think he belonged in kind of like the 4th round or maybe even the 3rd rather than the 5th.
Yep, makes sense.
Is there anyone, Mario, that you've maybe changed your mind on when it comes to rookies? Maybe, from the time we've had the draft until now. I know I have a couple guys that I've maybe changed, like Bateman initially was not a big fan of that landing spot. And just going back to how I felt about him pre-draft, I'm back there drafting him, feeling that the good value. Is there someone that you've changed your mind on that maybe you have a more positive feeling about now?
I guess I'm a little surprised at how early I've found myself taking some of the quarterbacks as Trey Lance and Justin Fields. I was sold on Lawrence the whole time because his playing time was so obvious as soon as they got that first overall pick. But yeah, when I get a decent starting quarterback, especially in best ball, I've been thinking on that upside with Lance and Fields being the kind of runners they can be, and it's especially in the tournament on underdog. It's kind of like, man, you start thinking about the best case scenarios of those guys, and there's a lot of points. But Lance could be kind of just probably not, almost certainly not this year will it happen, but Trey Lance could be peak Josh Allen, and in the meantime, having the Kyle Shanahan system makes his task a little easier than it would be for most rookie quarterbacks. So if he does kick Jimmy Garoppolo out of the way, some of these picks you're seeing of him going in like Lance going in like the 11th round or something like that. It kind of, at a glance, it might be surprising when they go off the board, but it's one of those, like, if it turns out Jimmy's just kind of shot in training camp and Lance is taking a decisive lead, it's like he's going to start going in the 8th or something like that. So I've been getting a little bit in on that kind of like risky approach. Like, I want to get a little bit of early exposure just in case those guys cost more later on. Because Fields, of course, it's like he's basically like, you know, Marcus Mariota kind of athlete, so he can run for hell of a lot of yards too. But as far as the rookie receivers and running backs, I don't think there's been a whole lot that have changed. I mean, I like Bateman a lot as a prospect, I should say. Like, he's pretty convincing. I don't know how much more convincing a receiver prospect could be, but I guess I am a little higher on guys like Sammy Watkins and even Devin Duvernay than most people. So and I still have, you know, respect for Marquise Brown. I know he's not a true wide receiver 1, but I still think he's a good player too. So I love Bateman, but it's one of those things like I just kind of I'll be too late, you know, like I'll either just like make the right call by not being in on it early, or I'll be too late, because if there's any clarity with Bateman, it's going to be one of those things like you just wish you got him when he was cheaper, because once he's on the field, once his targets and his snaps are assured, like, a guy like that won't fail. There's just the question of like how soon he arrives, really.
For sure. And all those names, it's kind of one of the reasons I'm loving Lamar this year. I love what you said about the quarterbacks, because just looking at some of the drafts I'm doing right now, especially Superflex, and seeing the winning teams from last year, I like to go back and see what those winning rosters did. And one of the, you know, common threads was hitting on, you know, whether it was Herbert last year, Mahomes the year prior, you know, Lamar Jackson. I mean, if you hit on one of those guys, getting him in those, you know, closer to the double digit rounds, I mean, bingo, man, especially in a super flex, you just smashed a big advantage. Sorry, Theo, to cut you off there.
No, I was going to say pretty much the same thing you said, that I'm with Mario on that. You know, it seems like we're talking about him every single show, but Trey Lance is so appealing as like a QB2, you know, in a single quarterback league, or, you know, a guy you want to take in super flex. I think as soon as he takes over, you know, he's a QB1, he's a top 12 option based on his rushing upside and the weapons he has. None of us, we could all kind of guess when he's going to take over, but to me, he's going to take that job from Garoppolo. It's gotta happen, unless Garoppolo starts the year like 5-0, you know, and he's coming. But yeah.
Theo's being taken over by aliens.
Today it seems like from the Jets reporters.
Sorry, Theo, we lost you, brother.
Your thoughts on Elijah Moore? This? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me more?
Yeah.
You're back. Nope, maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, he was talking about Elijah Moore, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's the exact same thing as Bateman for me, because like if Elijah Moore gets those snaps, he's going to get the targets eventually. So it's like, do they hold him back? Because that's the only way he's gonna be held back. I don't know. That Jets situation is tough to figure out. I thought they were going to get rid of Crowder, but then I've been taking that too much for granted, because I thought he had a different contract, but I looked at his over the cap contract page the other day, and it was like, oh man, they're not actually going to save any money now if they cut him. So
didn't they redo his contract?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, apparently. So it's like, man, I definitely think they should play Moore ahead of Crowder, and I happen to think Crowder is even a pretty good player, but Moore is, you know, he could be a total target hog in the NFL, and I don't think he needs to be a slot specialist either. He's going to be listed at 5'10", 180, basically. So he's kind of got the same frame as someone like Deontay Johnson, but he's faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's got a real good, you know, a path. A lot of it's going to depend on how good is Zach Wilson, you know, and that's a tough one to call right now, really. You know, they're saying all the right things in training camp, but
good line,
or not training camp, but mini camps, and you know, but when don't they? You know, you're not going to say bad things about your quarterback that you just you know, drafted you know, as a second overall quarterback. So and I think with Crowder, you know, there's at least a possibility they might trade him during the season if, you know, the offense gels together. and they're not really using him that much, because they did make his contract is a little bit more trade friendly now than what it was before. So I would hope anyway that if they're not using him very much, then at least they would trade him and get some value out of him that way and allow him to get onto another team and get used.
Yeah, I don't have many anyway, Elijah Moore best ball shares, but it's one of those things kind of like Bateman where I'm either going to just kind of miss out because I'm too late, or I can kind of just get over the price in the meantime and pay now, because it's one of those things like if the ambiguity is removed, if there is no Crowder, it's all of a sudden just like, oh, now Moore's going to play 850 snaps, and that means he's going to get 100 targets. And if we think he's getting 100 targets, he's probably going in like the 7th or 6th round instead of the 11th or something. So it always feels so risky to take him in the 11th or 10th round or wherever he tends to go. But it's just one of those things like he's not really going to get cheaper than that.
Yeah, he was a good guy to be on early before the draft because he was cheap then.
Yeah.
Theo, you're gonna have to watch the show back to get all of Mario's goodness on the Jets offense. That
I'm definitely gonna want to get that one for sure. I was having some technical difficulties. And
guys,
then, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I just, we all like him, but I had a question for you. How do you see we're all on Jamar Chase. We all think he's a terrific prospect. How do you see the targets shaping out between Chase and Higgins and Boyd? Do you have a feel for the usage there? Is Chase stepping into a alpha role, or do you see it as more of a split?
I don't really know how he could get an alpha role that early. If he does, then it means he's a total monster, because T. Higgins is a beast already too. Like, T. Higgins could be pretty soon, in my opinion anyway, a top 5 receiver in the league. So Chase could be awesome and still not as good as him. And it wouldn't be any failure on his part if that was the case. But even those two, as good as they are, it's like Tyler Boyd. Maybe he doesn't play outside a whole lot. Maybe he's only a slot receiver, but they're going to have a slot receiver the vast majority of the time. And as far as slot receivers go, Tyler Boyd's very good. So I don't know. It's like Tyler Boyd can't really disappear. Higgins definitely isn't going anywhere. I guess there's a way that they could just, cut out the 4th receiver role. Maybe it's just like we don't see Auden Tate a whole lot. Maybe we don't see Uzoma a whole lot. Maybe they really find a way to get all 3 of those guys going. They're certainly worth the usage if they can find a way to get all 3 of those guys fed. That would be a best case scenario. So I hope it happens. I'm a little concerned about Burrow's knee, but the early reports are pretty encouraging. Knock on wood. So hopefully that keeps trending the right way, because those 3 receivers are all really good. And if Burrow can make the pie pretty big, then the answer could just be all of them.
Who has the better receiving core, Dallas or Cincy?
I'm inclined to think Cincinnati, but I guess Dallas is like more polished in the meantime. Like Chase might be a little rusty from not playing last year. I have no idea what to make of that. But it's like Chase is definitely one of those guys. He's going to arrive eventually. It's just like, is it going to be right away? And I guess CeeDee Lamb was awesome as a rookie, and I love CeeDee Lamb, but Chase is safely a better prospect, so I don't really want to rule anything out. I will say I don't have a whole lot of interest in Jamar Chase at his current best ball price. In recent days, I guess it seems like it's dropping a little tiny bit, but at the very least, I'm not going to pay more for Chase than Higgins. Like, I just can't feel strongly enough about either of them to do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same bandwidth. I'm taking Higgins first. And usually that means I've missed on Chase, but that's all right. I mean, I just can't see taking Chase with Higgins still on the board.
My Joe Burrow Higgins stack right now.
Say hello to my little friend.
I've been dying to use the sound effect, so I just had to throw that in there.
Hey man, T. Higgins makes you use the sound effect. That's
T. Higgins, man. I've been saving up that Burrow Higgins stack, and I think T. Higgins, like, we talk about guys that you kind of missed the boat. I feel like now people are kind of feeling what Mario is feeling, like where he belongs. But I feel like a few weeks ago, maybe two to maybe 6 weeks ago was a good window to buy Higgins, or maybe farther back a bit. But after the draft anyways, when they picked up Chase, I think was the perfect time to add Higgins to your dynasty rosters at probably the, kind of like Bitcoin at the bottom, right? Before it kind of blasts off, because we all know as this gets closer to the season, guys, and we see Burrow healthier and healthier, those Cincy receivers, all three of them are going to skyrocket in value. So love to talk about Cincy. Guys, I got to ask Mario, we're talking rookies. We're talking about these super flex. These are also tight end premium. And Kyle Pitts is definitely at the top of the, discussion topic. And that's probably the one rookie I haven't heard your take on, Mario. So I really want to hear your take. Everybody's heard, our takes on it. I want to hear for 2021, how do you feel about Mr. Pitts?
Yeah, I guess I should have said Pitts when you asked earlier, like who I've changed my opinion on since the draft, because I was always, like everybody, I was high on Pitts. I mean, he's pretty convincing. It's hard to find much to criticize about him. And I thought, yeah, he's going to be awesome, some version of that. And then when I saw the drafts, the price tag on him in drafts, my initial reaction was, like most people, it was probably something like, oh, my God, you can't take a rookie tight end that high. And then they traded Julio, and it just got worse. So it's a pretty important question, I guess, on like the way this season turns out for everybody. It's like Kyle Pitts is going to hold a lot of sway in the way this goes for a lot of people's teams. And at this point, I'm maybe it's just like I'm rationalizing it. Like maybe I'm just kind of looking for a reason to believe. But I do believe now, and I know it's expensive, and I know it's basically reckless, but I'm totally okay with buying Kyle Pitts in redraft. I think, it's also helped, I think, by I tend to target receivers a little bit later anyway. So if I don't get a running back in that late third, early to mid fourth that I like, I might not be taking a receiver there anyway, so I can kind of say, like, yeah, it's not a great value or whatever, but there's enough difference between Pitts and, let's say, Hawkinson or Andrews, I guess, that I can see it working as long as you make that 6th round, 7th round wide receiver pick correctly. So I try to rationalize it that way, but basically, with Atlanta, with Julio gone, Kyle Pitts is not going to play tight end in any way that we look at the historical results of tight ends. Like the closest season to the way that they're going to use him is probably like Jeremy Shockey's rookie year with the Giants. And at the time, it was kind of like, it was pretty unprecedented the way they were trying to get Shockey going. They were just forcing tons of passes to him in a way that the NFL didn't really do with tight ends at the time. And Shockey didn't turn out to be that great. He was just they tried to make it work, but it didn't happen. With Pitts, they're going to try that same thing, and I think it's going to happen because he's just probably the best tight end prospect ever. Athleticism, it clearly works at wide receiver if they want to line him up there. If they want to put him at tight end, that works too. He's going to beat who's ever covering him. And with Julio gone, the quality of the remaining skill position players there is so weak at receiver and running back both. So there's going to be so much slack in that offense, and I don't know what choice they have but to let Pitts pick up pretty much all of it. Like I don't know how. If we're looking for a comparison for a rookie year for Kyle Pitts, I think you almost might want to look at like Marquez Colston or something.
Yeah,
I like that.
Interesting.
Yep.
So you see him as the same tier as T.J. Hawkinson and Andrews.
I think he's ahead of them. No.
Yeah, I got
those your 4.
Yeah, I got to put Pitts ahead of them just because I just really think Pitts is that good of a prospect. And like one thing that's interesting about him is he's still really young, and maybe this would be a reason to consider it risky to pay the price for 2021. But he turns 21 like right at the start of the season or something like that. So he was putting up these numbers for Florida, like high volume, super high efficiency numbers. And he's competing with these guys like Van Jefferson, who are like 5 years older than him for targets, and he's still outplaying them even with that huge age disadvantage. So with the Falcons having, or so I see it as, the Falcons having no choice but to throw to him, I just don't even really see that much risk. It's like if it turns out that Pitts was a bad pick this year, I think it'll be more because Andrews and Hawkinson had big seasons and were just like the better picks, 2-3 rounds later, and less because of Pitts being bad specifically.
If that happens, Mary, you'll see me on my little planet all by myself, just having a celebratory tea, Earl Grey or something, something boring, just because I'll be alone. Like, what am I going to do? Get
Are you big on Hawkinson?
Entirely alone. I mean,
no, I've been there, done that with rookie tight ends. I don't care what you could tell. You could tell me he's Superman in the Incredible Hulk's body. And, I've heard every single comparison. Gesicki was supposed to be, whatever. And I've just heard it over and over. Ebron, first year in redraft, at their price, I always see better options. But that's me personally. I always say, like, I'm not the type of person that says, oh, you're building your roster the wrong way. You know what? Like, I always say there's a million ways to skin a cat. And that's what I love about fantasy is, there's no similar winning roster. All the winning rosters even are different. So
I think the tight end markets are pretty sharp right now. I wanted to mention too. It's like it's rare that there's a tight end picked in a like underdog draft that I do now, where I'm like, oh, that was a really bad pick. It's usually like you end up with one of them just on the basis of your draft slot. And there's just kind of like a few clearly better choices than others. But yeah, it's like whenever I see Hawkinson go, wherever I see Andrews go, I'm usually thinking something like, oh, that was a pretty good pick. It's pretty much just Logan Thomas that I don't really like at the price at the moment.
The Thomas Tunyon area there.
Yeah, I guess Tunyon too. It's like I get the theory. Like some people are kind of applying the Jonnu Smith 2020 reasoning with Tunyon that like, look how efficient he was, look how many touchdowns, how explosive. Imagine if the target rate goes up. But the problem is there's no obvious way that the targets are going to go up. They would have to change the whole structure of the offense. So no interest in Tunyon really, even though I think he's a pretty good player.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that is really kind of a hidden dead zone for tight ends. A lot of people aren't really acknowledging it, but I don't really strongly feel good about any of the tight ends going in that area, and I'd rather just I'd rather get them earlier or get them later. But once you hit that range, all those guys just they've got lots of questions, and if I'm going to be drafting a guy with a lot of questions around him, I'd rather do it at a cheaper price and get me a Troutman or a Komet or even a Gronkowski or whatever, somebody who's just going to be a little bit cheaper and still get plenty of targets.
Opportunity cost. Theo, before I pass you the mic to carry this awesome convo, we gotta give a quick shout out, especially right now with the fishbowl going on. Our friends over at Veridian Global are basically the when you watch the Oscars, the what's the costume people? What do they call them? What's the fancy name for them? Wardrobe. The wardrobe. Like they basically dress up the stage, right? The movie. And Veridian has become kind of the wardrobe for fantasy football. So we're on there. If you want to pick up some GOAT gear, we appreciate it. I always say, nobody's getting rich off of this stuff. It's just, you give some support, you flex the logos around. But guys, if you haven't checked out the Scott Fishbowl stuff, it's music themed, and there is no doubt that you will find something on there that you fall in love with, no matter who your favorite band or type of music that you listen to. So go check out VeridianGlobalRightNow.com. Like I said, check out the GOAT gear. We appreciate that, but right now do the Fishbowl stuff because there's some charity involved there, and make sure you go donate to the great causes that are being promoted out there in Twitterland and on the Veridian site. So VeridianGlobal.com. Again, GOAT gear's on there, but there's a lot of fishbowl action on there right now. Show your support. Theo, let's bring it back to the goodness.
Yeah, so Mark, this week you dropped your breakout candidates for this year. I'm excited to hear about them. Which are the guys that you view as breakout guys for 2021 that could potentially win you your league?
Yeah, so that article was for the Rotowire magazine. So I took a little less editorial liberty with that one. Like I tried to make it a little bit more like if I'm trying to be like fair, more like fair and impartial than usual. So I didn't necessarily for my own like reckless version of this article, it's not necessarily like I would have had Cam Akers and DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins, but I had to put pretty much all those second-year running backs that didn't quite break out fully last year, because it sure seems like pretty much all of them are going to now. And I have Cam Akers listed in there, and he's someone who I might be a little lower on him in a talent evaluation sense than most people, but I have no problem at all with what he's going for in drafts. And like I've taken him a few times myself, because it's just one of those cases where you're buying a 3-down running back in the Rams offense, and that role alone is just about worth that spot. So, but if you happen to be pretty high on Akers as a talent, then yeah, it makes sense to take him even kind of like the top 8, I think, something like that. But yeah, I am high on DeAndre Swift too. I don't really believe much of the panic around him and the Jamal Williams thing. It seems to be fading a little bit the past couple of weeks, the past month or whatever. I think it's pretty clearly like they're just going to use him like Austin Eckler, Alvin Kamara, whatever. I think he's going to be pretty good at it. I actually just took Swift in the fishbowl, the 4th round, I think, which means that's actually the 2nd year in a row I took him. So hopefully better luck this year for him and Dak. My other pick the last 2 years didn't work out as good last year. But yeah, I got high hopes for J.K. Dobbins. I know there's some uncertainty there. I know some people are concerned about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm not. I actually think Clyde Edwards-Helaire was pretty promising as a rookie. He just turned 21 last year in the spring. He's a small running back. A lot of rookies hit the rookie wall, and it's not shocking or especially concerning that he did as a particularly young, particularly small running back. So I think all those guys are going to pop off this year pretty much. Think they're gonna do pretty well as long as their prices stay reasonable, and I'd say right now they're all pretty reasonably placed. But otherwise, I guess if we're going a little bit more into the weeds, I'm definitely expecting breakout seasons for Paris Campbell and Christian Kirk. They're, I guess, both pretty post-hype receiver prospects at this point, but I think they're both pretty clearly good prospects who have just kind of had weird circumstances. I guess they're both pretty big injury concerns, and that's a fair reason for caution in both of their cases. But and especially Paris Campbell, like if he seriously gets hurt again, he's just the most unlucky guy in the world, and that would be cruel, at least, if not unlikely.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and obviously the chance of injury is pretty well priced in. What you got to spend for him,
and then some, Dan.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I will freely admit I have more trouble getting on board with Christian Kirk than I do with Paris Campbell.
That's fair.
But
that's definitely fair.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I mean, when you look at it objectively, you're exactly right. I mean, there are a lot of similarities in how their careers have gone and what sorts of prospects they were. So. That may be bias of my own that's just creeping in there that I need to work on weeding out.
Yeah, I like the Campbell funny call as well. That's he's kind of they featured him and targeted him in the games he played, and then he goes down and he's kind of an afterthought. I mean, he's going to the 15th round, 14th, 15th, 16th round. He's free at this point, but it seems like the upside is clearly there in that offense that really needs a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think he's pretty clearly the slot receiver, and he actually did pretty good before he got hurt last year, like you said. So I think it's at the very least, I'm surprised more people haven't noticed the parallels between Paris Campbell and Kadarius Toney, and specifically the sense that Tony's just kind of a worse version of Campbell, and he's going in the first round anyway. And obviously not fantasy drafts, the first round of the NFL draft.
In a worse offense.
Yeah, and Paris Campbell's just, he's like 205, 206 or whatever, and he ran the 4.31. Really insane jump numbers, good agility testing. So he's an underneath guy who can take it the distance and break some tackles, and especially in PPR, I haven't understood at all why he's gone as late as he has.
That is his signed helmet right here, Mr. Paris Campbell is right.
Oh, very nice.
If I can get my finger on it, anyways, you guys get the point. It's right there.
You got it, Jay. That's excellent.
Got it. I want to just comment. You're talking about a lot of these second year rookies, and a guy like Melvin Gordon taught me a long time ago second year players, guys, are such good investments, because especially the ones that have shown you something. And we talked about a lot of them tonight, Akers, Gibson, Swift, like these guys have shown you that they can do it in the NFL in some serious games. But you're kind of getting them at a good value because they're not the new shiny toy. You know, there's rookies now, right? So I've my dynasty success, I would say, is very much built around that, is attacking those second year guys, especially the ones that either got hurt or didn't do as well as people expected. You can get some serious value build up on your dynasty teams if you gobble these guys up at the right time. And I think you mentioned some really good ones right there, and even guys like Paris Campbell that are free right now. Imagine this guy pops. You know, you're literally getting him for free right now.
And I wanted to go back. You mentioned Christian Kirk, and we haven't heard a whole lot about Kirk this offseason. We talked about Rondell Moore a lot, being a great addition to that offense. Obviously, there's still some AJ Green believers. What's your rationale with Kirk? You're just betting on the talent or the usage?
I think it's reasonable to look at Rondale Moore and kind of, you know, have high hopes for him. Like he's a really good college player. He's a good enough, like a uniquely good enough athlete that I don't think the 5'7", 180 thing is going to doom him. It's like he may be very, very small, but no other 5'7", 180 guys produced like him and tested exactly the way he did. So he's the first of his type, and it's pretty good with him. So it makes sense. I just happen to think that Christian Kirk is a good player, and specifically in the slot, where I think he's been blocked the past couple of years by Larry Fitzgerald. So Rondale Moore will get some of those slot snaps, but I think there's going to be enough 4 wide slot snaps, you know, two slots reps in each case, that Moore and Kirk will both be out there. And if you think about the two of them, Moore is the one who will be sent deep more often than Kirk from that spot. Like they tried to have Andy Isabella working from there last year, and I actually think Isabella can do some stuff. I don't think he's trash or anything, but that Kingsbury offense works a certain way, and it's mostly underneath, and Isabella can't play underneath at all. So there's an opening there a little bit in addition to the Fitzgerald opening. I just happen to think Moore is probably going to get stuck more with the Isabella part of that, at least his rookie year. And then Christian Kirk's a free agent after this year, so I think he'll walk. But it's just one of those things. Like I think Moore can be a very good player, and I just believe it'll be pretty tough for him to be a better slot receiver, NFL slot receiver from day one than a guy like Kirk, who I just think Kirk would have broke out by now if he was playing inside more all this time, because they were trying to use him as their vertical guy the past couple of years, and that's something he can only do a couple times a game. Like he's more of a Golden Tate kind of receiver than a true downfield receiver. So if Christian Kirk has been miscast outside this whole time, then I think moving into the slot, moving into the Fitzgerald role, it'll be kind of a chance for him to be more like the player he was at Texas A&M, where he was really, really good. Like he displaced Josh Reynolds as that number one receiver in that offense as a true freshman, and they had a couple other big recruits there at the time. So maybe I'm just clinging to that prospect evaluation too much. That'll probably be the case if Kirk has a bad year, because I won't have much of an excuse if Moore is better. You know, it's like Moore's a really good prospect. I don't want to fade him exactly, but I'm taking the leap of faith with Kirk, right or wrong, I guess.
And if anyone has an Andy Isabella tattoo that they've been trying to laser off of their keister, like I've been, they're probably very hesitant to draft Mr. Moore out there in Arizona.
Isabella's going somewhere else. They're going to cut him or trade him.
Yeah, practice squad. It's called practice squad.
Yeah, I think that's you know, that offense. It's not just DeAndre Hopkins. I think it's worth taking shots on the other receivers. And Kirk is probably the cheapest of the three. Occasionally AJ might go behind him, but most of the time Kirk is the cheapest one. So
especially in best ball, right?
I do like that. Absolutely in best ball. And we've seen Kirk have these monster blow up games where he's like a week winning player. It's just very, very difficult to predict him. So he's flashed before. So yeah, if they get him some lower ADOT looks, it'll be interesting to see how he'll do. But I'm betting on Kyler Murray this year. I think he's going to take a big third-year leap and that's definitely an offense I want to have pieces of. Is there a tight end that stands out to you, Mario? Any tight ends that you see as breakout guys? I know Dan has mentioned Troutman and Kmet, guys we've talked about on this show before. Do you see any guys as potential breakouts?
Yeah, Troutman and Kmet are both pretty interesting. I mean, Troutman, maybe he's not fast exactly, but he had that really good 3-cone, and he's a big tight end. Had a lot of college production, so it's like seems like he can do something. It's definitely something going on there, and the role is wide open. So I'll be disappointed if Troutman has a bad year. I think that Kmet. It's tough to figure that one out because it's like, why are they keeping Jimmy Graham in that contract if they're just going to really cut Kmet loose this year? But maybe they're just going to kind of run a 2 tight end offense all the time. And Kmet,
I think there's some of that.
Snaps.
Kmet
was earning tons of snaps last year too already. So
right, and I mean, really, they don't have much back behind Kmet if they don't keep Graham. So I think that's probably the main reason. Jimmy Graham is one of those guys I'll definitely take. Like at the end of a FFPC best ball. If I'm scratching around, like in round 25 plus, and I still need to, shore up the tight end room somehow, Jimmy Graham's an easy one to click on right there.
Dude was awesome last year as a flexer, tight end preems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. If I had to pick like a breakout tight end, I guess I would say Jonnu Smith finally does it this year. And if Frank Reich just sets Mo Alley Cox free, I think he would be a big time player.
Yes, guy.
Not much reason, I guess. But,
You deserve one of these for the Mo Alley right now. I love it. What about Dan Arnold? Because you hear that even though what he kind of did at I guess it was towards I don't have it in front of me, but towards the end of the season last year in Arizona. Now he goes to Carolina. They let him go. Like, do you think he's relevant out there in Carolina? Arnold, he seems to be like a favorite sleeper. That's why I love that Wheeler. Shout out to Wheeler, one of the best rankers out there in fantasy land. But what are your thoughts on Arnold, and maybe let that bleed into the Carolina offense if you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Arnold's pretty interesting. I can't tell if Carolina's likely to do anything in particular at this point, though, with the slot reps, because it seems like they might just be going into training camp with Dan Arnold, with David Moore, with Terrace Marshall, and looking at it not any particular way, but more like, we'll just see how this shakes out in training camp. Like maybe one of them will get hurt, and then we'll just be glad we have the other 2, and we won't have to figure it out anymore. We'll just go with whatever left, something like that. But if there are slot snaps available for some reason, Arnold would project pretty well for those. Like, he doesn't really project to play tight end. He projects to play more like slot receiver, playing a little bit off in line at tight end maybe, but he's not really a tight end. He's a receiver. So if they want to give some big slot snaps out, Arnold could profile for those, and he would probably be pretty good at it. It's just a question of like how many snaps they give him and how much they want to go with David Moore, who might be a pretty good pickup himself. And Terrace Marshall, I certainly like a lot as a prospect. It's just they're all 3 very different types of slot receivers, and it's Curtis Samuel's slot reps that are opened up.
Getting on Dan's good side with the Terrace Marshall, Mario? Smart man.
He's a really good prospect.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a show favorite thanks to Dan introducing, and he's definitely. I just find, especially where he's going in best balls. Dan, you might agree, like there's not much else in that area, man. It's easy to even kind of reach a bit for him just because there's nothing in that area, man. Not as with that kind of upside.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he tends to go off, in like the round 15, 16, 17 area, and at that point, everybody's a little bit of a crapshoot. And if I'm going to take a crapshoot, I'd rather take it on a guy who's definitely got some talent. And, he's one of those guys. So,
Mario, I want to ask you about a running back. I'm hoping that my friends in the CNBBCL are not listening because I just passed on him to get my QB2 in Roethlisberger in the 5th round. This is a 16-team Superflex 10M Preems best ball. Josh Jacobs is a guy that, went from top 2 or 3 roundish to 4th, 5th, 6th, just dropping like some of the stocks out there. What's your thoughts on that Raiders running back situation, especially with Jacobs falling at a nice value right now? No?
I happen to think he's a pretty good value right now, and I was not high on him as a prospect. I wasn't buying him either the last 2 years. I don't really understand why there's the skepticism toward him that there is. Like, it seems almost like one of those things, like there's a lot of bitterness about him not paying off as like a 9th, 10th overall pick last year, and that may be like clouding some people's judgment a bit, because he was totally fine for even like a 2nd round pick last year. And just because Drake's there doesn't mean that they're actually going to scale his workload back. They could get rid of Jalen Richard from that offense, and if you just take what Jalen Richard played last year with Devontae Booker, that right there is something like 450 snaps. And running backs get hurt. A 450 snap projection could easily turn to 600, 650 if Jacobs hurts his shoulder or his ankle again. So I think that's how the Raiders were looking at it. I don't think they were like, we got to get Jacobs off the field. I think they thought, Jacobs got hurt each of the past 2 years, and we know we want to ride the running back into the ground, so we got to have 2 of them. And John Gruden doesn't know what the salary cap is. He doesn't care. So, like, talking about how his signing bonus compares to other running backs, it's like it's only meaningful insofar as like how you're grading their finances. It doesn't matter for the player projection, because John Gruden just doesn't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, and in a larger sense too. I mean, Drake, other than one 8-game stretch with Arizona at the end of 2019, has pretty much never failed to underwhelm. And so, that's kind of the best bet, is that he's probably going to underwhelm. And if Drake underwhelms, then that means that Jacobs is probably going to be in a pretty good spot. As our buddy Kevin Wheeler said, if you don't believe in Jacobs, then you must believe in Drake. And then the converse is also true. If you don't believe in Drake, then you better believe in Jacobs.
Drake goes pretty late too. You don't really see. It's like they're both being faded by the public right now, and it's maybe that's the right call, but I'm more inclined to think they're both too cheap.
Yeah, and Gruden is going to use that running back. I mean, he's it's not like Jacobs didn't get a lot of use; he just didn't get a lot of targets.
But Dan, I just want to. That's kind of why I was showing my screen there. Maybe he doesn't get as many targets as you like, but if your guy's not getting targets, you want him in the red zone, you want him getting touchdowns. He was number 2, 65 red zone touches last year, and then he was 4th in the league with touchdowns.
He gets carries so rapidly too. He gets so many carries per snap. He only needs something like 550 snaps to push for 250 carries.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it.
Yep. I love the call, and I feel like he's, we're talking fishbowl, whether you're talking best balls, he keeps dropping guys at a value. So especially if you like to fill up other positions in those early rounds, he's a really nice running back too. You pick up your stud early, and then you get him at a value in the 5th, 6th round. I mean, this guy was going to, top 2 or 3 rounds not that long ago, guys, before this recent drop in Drake. And Drake is just reminding me of Carlos Hyde. Like, to me, is like, everybody's worried Carlos Hyde is coming to town. I don't know, guys. You got to look at you got to look what these guys did last year. And for me, these are always just opportunities to buy. So right now, take advantage, guys. Buy Jacobs. These stud running backs, he's at the end. I would say it's him and Etienne are the last 2 guys in that last tier in the running backs when I'm drafting right now. Do you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think, like Dan and Mario said, both Drake and Jacobs to me are at a point where you can take a shot on one of them. You take, Jacobs in the end of the 5th, early 6th, or you can wait and take Drake in like the 11th or 10th and get a piece of a team that's going to run the ball. And it seems like the only Raider anybody really wants is Darren Waller at this point. I mean, obviously, but it's kind of like a wide receiver will hit and one of the 2 running backs is going to exceed ADP, so it's worth taking a shot.
Theo Wheeler disagrees. He's saying Brian Edwards breakout. breakout
Brian
season.
Edwards, I mean, absolutely. There's people on Edwards, people on Ruggs. Do you have a feeling on either one of those wide receivers, Mario, for the Raiders, or not touching either?
I'm pretty high on Brian Edwards as a prospect, so I've definitely been buying him a good amount. Ruggs is a tough one for me. I don't want to count him out or anything. I think he's totally decent player. It's just one of those things. Like he's so valuable as a decoy that even if he's a very good underneath receiver, they might not use him as one. It's like if you have to get someone downfield and you have to get someone underneath, you can't satisfy that requirement by sending Edwards deep. It's like it's not Ruggs' fault, but he might get that task anyway. So it's he's young. He can still change as a player. Like Ruggs doesn't need to be the same player forever that he's been to this point. But to this point, he's definitely been more of like a decoy kind of guy, downfield kind of guy. Makes some big plays, but I don't know if I really see the per target snap rate, or sorry, the per snap target rate getting high enough to where the upside that he has in theory as such a fast guy really shows up in the box score. Like he's very useful to the Raiders, pulling the safety off of Waller, or pulling the safety off of even, Hunter Renfrow is probably not even going to disappear. So there's a lot of ways that, and I don't want to count out John Brown either, I guess I should say. That guy pretty good recently, so he might be a factor. But Edwards, with Edwards, you kind of can see like some people are sort of getting out on him as a prospect, and I'm not willing to do that. I think it's pretty long odds, I think, that a guy could be as young as Edwards was at South Carolina and pretty much match the production of Deebo Samuel and Hayden Hurst, who are like 3 and 6 years older than him. Like it is possible that he's just not that good anyway, but to be able to keep up with guys like that at such an age disadvantage seems pretty important to me.
Yeah, and kind of the way I see it is, if you want to bet on a pair of Raider receivers, and one of them is bound to do pretty well for you, take Edwards and John Brown, because the odds of both of them doing terrible, I think, are pretty low. It's going to be one or the other of them that does pretty well.
And it's all about risk reward, guys. All these guys we're talking about, whether you're investing, it's how much are you risking and what's the possible reward. You got to be realistic, but that'll tell you right there. And all these guys we're talking about in Oakland in Vegas are basically free right now.
Yeah. Hey, Aguilar looked pretty darn good. I mean, he was a useful piece down the stretch last year. And if somebody's going to inherit that role, it's going to be Edwards or it's going to be John Brown.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Do you see, just getting back to your breakouts, or, in general, you mentioned Trey Lance, who we're all high on. Is there another quarterback that might be, maybe being drafted as like a quarterback 2 or a low end QB1 that you think is going to exceed expectations and beat ADP? Is there a particular guy you're targeting?
Well, I think a lot of the quarterbacks have pretty reasonable prices. I've gotten pretty much all of them, depending on just kind of where my draft slot lines up. Not really doing any hard fades, but I guess as far as the guys that I pick a little more often than other people, Trevor Lawrence might be one, but I'm kind of stalling further ownership there. Like I've got enough shares as it is. I should probably diversify a little bit, but I definitely think Trevor Lawrence is going to be day one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I would admit that it's pretty hard to evaluate quarterbacks, but I just feel like he isn't hard to evaluate. Like he's just different. And I definitely expect him to be a big-time runner in the NFL. Not Lamar Jackson or something like that, or not Kyler, not even Jalen Hurts kind of runner. But I do think Lawrence is more like a Russell Wilson kind of rushing threat than people expect. I think people look at him and think, oh, he's going to run for 200 yards this year. It's like, no, he might run for something like 700 or something like that. Not that he's likely to, but if he gets enough attempts, he would do it because he can actually run pretty well. But since I'm not getting more Lawrence shares for the time being, I could at least say I'm taking probably way too much, actually, Cam Newton, because some of these underdog tournament drafts, it's like I get to the whatever, the 13th round, or whenever I feel like actually taking a backup quarterback, and some people take 6 quarterbacks and 10 picks or whatever, and then I don't really want to take Daniel Jones or whatever's there, so I just say that, like, to hell with it. I'll just take Cam Newton in the 17th then, and I'm okay doing it up to this point because I happen to believe Cam's going to have a good year. If he has a good year, it's probably going to have a lot to do with rushing, and that if he's putting up rushing numbers that late in the draft, he could be a smash pick. But yeah, I know he's injury prone. I know he's not as good of a natural passer as Mac Jones, but I still think Cam starts, 14 games this year, something like that.
And thoughts on Tua?
Oh, I like Tua a fair amount, or at least I can definitely say I think his harshest critics are a little too hard on him because I feel like it's fair to point out that there's a lot of unknowns with Tua. Like he definitely hasn't proven that he's good, but talking about how he got benched for Fitzpatrick a bunch of times last year, like that doesn't really do much for me. It was just kind of it was a bad situation that the Dolphins put him in. Like giving him his first start against the Rams defense of all teams. It's like I know what they were thinking. Like, I'll ease him in. But yeah, going against the Rams was a rough start, and Fitzpatrick's a guy who's been doing it for 15 years. Of course, he's going to know how to pass the test better than the rookie will.
Magic.
I would hope Fitzpatrick could look better. But Tua, he had a really bad offensive line last year. He had receivers that really didn't suit him that much. Like at Alabama, he had these guys who pushed the safeties back right off the snap, got off the line really quickly, really fast receivers who created space in the field. And last year, you got all these lanky guys who, even a guy like Gesicki or Devontae Parker, it's like they're more build-up speed than they are, burst off the line. And now you had Will Fuller, you had Jalen Waddle. Like the safeties are going to play Miami totally differently this year than they did last year. And if Tua's any better at all, he should see, exponential improvement in his numbers.
Nice. I love the Tua take because he's definitely, I think, all offseason kind of undervalued, especially what they're building around him. I got to go to the tight end position, Theo, before I pass this back to you. Irv Smith is a guy, a favorite of the show. Dan's and Minnie. We're in tight end preems. He's a guy that I just find like he's sitting there and he's such a good value. Do you have a different take on Irv Smith as a possible breakout in 2021?
I think Irv's a pretty interesting prospect. He's one that I can't quite figure out yet, though, because his athletic testing wasn't great or anything. Like he ran pretty well, but he was a very light tight end at the combine. But the thing that's so interesting about him is he's just so young, and his numbers up until this point aren't the final story with him. It's like this story is definitely going to change, and it's his numbers are going to go up. It's just kind of hard to tell how much the structure of the Vikings offense can really create room for him. But there is a chance that he's basically their wide receiver 3 this year, just kind of functioning as like the main slot guy behind, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. So if he's their wide receiver 3, then, that's going to work because he's more kind of like a receiver anyway. And that's Kirk Cousins is going to be decent at least. So I think Irv has a way. And I don't think the Tyler Conklin thing that Mike Zimmer was talking about, like it doesn't really matter. And Zimmer's talking about it differently than fantasy people should be looking at it too. It's like Zimmer says, oh yeah, Conklin's going to, kind of replace Rudolph and Irv's role isn't going to change. Like he's just kind of talking about the positions that they play are different. And Conklin is going to replace Rudolph. It's just that Irv's going to be a better player than he was last year or 2 years ago. And he's probably... even now, probably like 2 or 3 years away from his prime. So he can keep improving for the next couple of years. And, it's like we saw when Rudolph got hurt last year, Irv's target rate increased a little bit. So he's shown flashes, and certainly his college production was really good. So he's, I think, one of those when, not if kind of players. And it's just kind of up to the Vikings to, give him that workload this year, and then I think it'll happen. But it's kind of hard to know, and I guess it depends on how early he goes in the draft. I've bought him a couple of times. I haven't specifically thought of him as a target, but I guess that might have more to do with me just kind of targeting tight ends in other parts of the draft than he tends to go, because I think as a player he's pretty promising so far.
Yeah, I think the main thing is just, with the passing volume overall is going to be in Minnesota, and then, where his role is going to fit into that.
Yeah, slot receiver could be his.
Could be.
Our boy Wheeler's asking us about a guy that I recently heard you talk about, Smith Marset. Why don't you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Smith Marset a lot. I'm so sold on Smith Marset. I kind of have to give the disclaimer that I'm probably not like a qualified to speak on it, because I'm just, I'm not impartial about it. But he was really good at Iowa. I mean, it remains to be seen how his NFL career turns out. But in the meantime, it's safe to say Smith Marset was very good at Iowa. It's not obvious when you look at his numbers because the volume doesn't really stand out, but the Iowa pie in the passing game was pretty small. He took quite a bit of it. He was much more efficient than the other targets in that offense. And when you watch the tape, he has so many plays where he just smokes the corner right at the line of scrimmage and press man coverage. And that's a good thing to see in college tape, because a lot of times these college receivers just run against zone defenses. And it's a question for them to face man coverage, and it's not a given some of the time. But with Smith Marset, he seems to already know how to do that stuff. Kind of looks a lot like Stephon Diggs to me in a lot of his Iowa tape, actually. But not to give unreasonable expectations for him. Like, Diggs was a better athlete.
You heard it here, folks.
The next Stephon Diggs, according to Mario Pruig.
By now.
I'll sign that one. I'm not. I think it's the only question for me is like how soon he really gets on the field. And I guess, to be fair, there are some character concerns with Smith Marset, and maybe that's part of why he fell to the 5th. But in terms of the talent, I mean, I just look for production that, is a good intersection of share percentage and efficiency relative to the team baseline. And he checks those boxes. He's a ball carrier. He can return kicks. It's easy to imagine ways that he kind of just gets on the field even as a rookie, I think.
Guys, before we get into some specific trades, maybe a little OTC action, the FFPC guys, our biggest supporters, our partners, myffpc.com. We play on the reg. Theo has a daily membership that he is constantly renewing because he's just drafting. And that's the thing, right? We've on here, but dude, how else are you going to talk about it, right? Is unless you're drafting. So you and Andrew working some magic over there at Half a Milli Billies, and we talk about it weekly, daily, every episode. Right here, you see it, guys. $100,000 for best ball, 125 entry fee, 550 grand prize money. Best balls are flying right now, starting at $35 up to $12.50. Dan and Theo are rocking 1250s like they're 35s. Trust me. And but the main event, guys, actually main event right now. A lot of people planning for this one because, guys, $500,000, $3.9 million in prize pool money. You'll save $100 right now on your first team, and on each additional team. 400. Oh, I apologize. I have Alex. We'll rewind that. We'll edit that with, we don't know how, but we'll do it. And apologies.
Just buy in. You don't get to save any money anymore. You must, that ship has sailed, but yeah, if you want to play, I mean, the $500,000, everything else that you were talking about is absolutely still in play.
100%. And that's the thing, guys. They had some early birds. We missed it. But, guys, the value is still there. Like, if you're going to put in some money to win some big money, you feel good about your game right now in the middle of July. Fantasy football goodness is, you're watching the district. We're giving you all the goodness. Go check it out, myffpc.com. Best ball, redraft for tons of money. Dynasties. Anything to add, guys? Theo?
No, it's a great place to play, and you don't have to worry about things like getting paid, chasing down somebody to pay your money. It's very professional and excellent customer support as well. So we love the FFPC.
Yep. Actually, pick your format, pick your stakes. You can do anything, $5 to $5,000, whatever. It's all there.
I'm just going to add one last thing because Theo touched on something very important. I know I ended up on the FFPC. Just again, I don't have friends that want to put up that kind of money to play fantasy football with me. They just know how good I am. That's just. But no, the safety aspect I think is very important. We know the people who run the FFPC. Guys, there's no doubt it's a very safe site. It's been around for years. The Dynasty teams don't fold. We give you the full confidence that the site is legit, very safe. Check it out, guys. myffpc.com. Dan, you have a trade. Remind me, is this something that you're working on that you've been offered? There's some pretty legit pieces involved there.
Yeah, this is one of our viewers from Germany, of all places. Lives in Munich, and so. Anyway, he's really loves fantasy football. He and I have been talking a little bit over the past couple weeks, and he was asking me about some trades. And he's looking to win this year, but he's got some older pieces at wide receiver. He's got a pretty good team. I think he's got a chance, definitely to be very competitive, but he's also looking to, kind of add one or two more pieces. So he's thinking about selling Akers and seeing what he can get for it. And actually, let me see if I can throw that up on the screen real quick so we can all see what we're talking about here.
Well, while you throw that on the screen, Dan, I'm just going to give that a big hell no. Just throwing it out there. If you want to win this year and you have Akers, they better be bringing you cherries, grapes, they better be feeding those things to you. It better be like a package with like a singing telegram, the whole deal. Like I want the whole package, Dan, if I'm selling Akers this year, because I just took him in the third round, the fishbowl. I got him in some FFPC dinos. Him and Gibby this year, probably my two favorite running backs to just take me to the promised land. I'm just saying.
There we go. All right. That might be.
Look at Dan sharing chat. See, I wasn't going to chair the chat. Just letting you people know, our lawyers out there, Dan is the one sharing this chat.
So, anyway, here's his three offers that he's got. He's got an Akers for Claypool, Dillon, Gus Edwards, and a first-round 2022. And I think we probably all agree that if you're looking to win this year, that's probably not the deal for you. Claypool's a nice piece, but Dillon and the 2022 first probably aren't going to pay off real well for you until next year. I do love the value here. Because I don't think Akers is necessarily an entirely sure thing. I mean, it's not like Darrell Henderson is completely bereft of talent. And if Akers gets injured, I mean, Henderson could, step in and shove him aside.
Plus you, as a rebuild, Dan, you can flip that Edwards piece to either the Dobbins owner, or you wait till he kind of produces more than people expect and then sell him for even more, to build that value on your roster.
But if you're looking to jump out of the gates fast, that's probably not the deal for you, right?
Not at all.
All right. So then Akers for ETN and Claypool. Now that might be one that tempts Mario a little bit more. What do you think?
It's definitely more tempting than the first one. And I think you could argue that it works fine for competing right away. But I guess it comes down to how much you think Claypool is going to improve the wide receiver production that you would otherwise project. And does the rest of the roster look like it could use a wide receiver upgrade, or are there already some good players there?
He's already got some pretty good players.
Because if he's trying to win this year, he needs Claypool to be like an upgrade this year, because you're losing something at running back.
Yeah, this is his roster right here. So
to me, it's simple. Does Claypool equal the difference between Etienne and Akers in 2021?
Right. I mean,
if they
to
want
me,
to win this year, I actually don't think so.
Yeah. What he's going to be able to do is improve probably on Corey Davis or Marvin Jones in his flex position with Claypool.
Yeah.
But you're taking a hit with, I don't think ETN is going to get what Akers does. So you're taking a hit there. So it's probably a little bit of a wash. Any other thoughts?
I would look to try to. I mean, I like that. I would consider ETN Claypool side, but I think he should try to get a little more there.
Agreed.
But like Mario said, Akers has top 5 upside this year if it all falls right. And ETN, best case scenario would be, low end RB1, high end RB2, and Robinson will be involved. So on a pure dynasty trade, where I'm just trying to own these guys for their career, I would take the ETN and Claypool side. But for winning this year, I would probably go with the Akers side. But if I could get more added to that trade, I could probably try to figure it out.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's all kind of dependent, Dan, on how you feel about Etienne. Because if you're Josh Larkey right now, I mean, Etienne is you're a little higher on him than most. So I think what Theo said, if you're in that situation, I think I agree. You add to the Etienne Claypool on the return, because I feel like if you're selling a guy like Akers right now, a guy like Gibson, one of these up and coming stud running backs that have shown us the money that they can be a top 5, the only way I'm selling him, especially if I'm competing now, is if the person is willing to overpay. That's the only way, man, that I'm moving winning pieces right now as a contender, especially in big money leagues. But that's just me.
And there you go. 5 from Germany. It's got to be like, 5 a.m. or something there?
Yes, guy. Nice.
I love it. Hey, shout out to MP60DC4L for hanging with us in the middle of the night. That's
you got
awesome.
the German air horn, Dan.
Yes, awesome. Love it. All right, let's and I think that third deal, Akers for Carson Judy and a 2022 second, I think that's basically a non-starter for all of us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on then to another deal. You got one up there, right? Don't you, JD?
Yeah. Can you show that while you've got the share screen, or you want me to throw? I'll throw it on.
Yeah, I can. I can.
While you throw it on, I'll let the listeners. So basically, we've got a big money league. It's like the 5th or 6th franchise of the GOAT leagues. I don't even know. It's like we got all kinds of complicated maps to see how this works, but basically, it's called the Money League. It's like $3 signs. That's legit right there. So very active traders in this league. Tight end premium. Is it, Dan? Is it super flex or 2 quarterback? Remind me. Or no, 2 tight end.
It's 2 tight end. Yeah,
2 tight end super flex. Exactly. So the trade is one team is sending, and this is very relevant to a lot of the guys we're talking about. Josh Jacobs with Mecole Hardman, Darnell Mooney, and a 2022 first round pick for J-Rob. That is James Robinson for newcomers, and Mr. F1 Terry McLaurin. I'll go to the guest. Mario, how do you feel about this trade?
Well, I love Terry McLaurin, and I happen to think James Robinson's a totally good starting NFL running back, but I think I'd rather have the Jacobs, Hardman, Mooney in the draft pick, because I don't think we talked about him, but Mooney was pretty convincing, I thought, last year. Not that he's going to be a Terry McLaurin or anything like that, but really good player. He kind of he kicked Anthony Miller out of the lineup from day one. That was pretty unexpected. So he's clearly impressing the Chicago coaches. I think Mooney's going to be a little more efficient this year, especially if Fields can take over at quarterback and give them an upgrade. Mecole, you don't really know for sure how he's going to break, but he could have some upside still. Like last year was only his 4th year playing receiver. Obviously, he's very fast. He's made a lot of big plays. So if he can just improve a little bit, I think I'd prefer the Jacobs, Hardman, Mooney in the pick pretty easily, actually.
Theo, how do you feel about it?
I could go both ways on this one. I'm a sucker for Terry McLaurin, so I might go with the McLaurin side. And I think he could just really break out this year. We've talked about him the last few weeks. If he just gets consistency at the quarterback position, it's going to help him so much. I mean, the guy has 5 starters a year, and now he goes to Fitzpatrick. If Fitzpatrick can just hold it down, I think he's going to have a massive year. And like you said, James Robinson might be closer to Josh Jacobs than the Chaos Theory manifestation might think. despite the presence of ETN. It's, I'm a little higher on Drake. So I see it as a slight split, just like the Robinson split. And to me, it's McLaurin versus, Mooney and the one and me Cole. I could go both ways on this one. It's a very good trade. We'd have to look at the rest of their roster to really pigeon it down. But it's a very even trade. But I would probably go with the McLaurin side just based on what I think he's going to become this year.
Yeah, that's a tough deal. I mean, it's a fair deal, and that's what makes it tough. Fair. It's just the value I think is pretty even. You can easily see easily come up with a way that either side could win this deal. So I certainly think it's a really well constructed deal, and as long as it does what each team was looking to get out of it, then they're probably both better off.
I'm going to add this, Dan. This is McLaurin has become like, if you have the DWZ Memphis in your league, Mr. Randy Memphis, McLaurin becomes like the unicorn, like any chance. I don't own McLaurin in Dynasty because of Mr. Memphis. I love him. I think he's awesome. I love what that offense has, and Gibby and him are two of the pieces I love and fits at his value. But you're not owning this dude if you've got Memphis in your league. So if you have the opportunity to buy him, I don't mind it. I don't mind saying that, because he's one of those guys that this might be the cheapest that you're going to get him at, right? And I feel like McLaurin is one of those guys that, like Memphis, if they own him, they probably really, really like him. So you're going to have to overpay. Again, it's one of those guys that it's going to be hard to get. So again, in this deal, for what if you're not a huge believer in Jacobs, which it seems like about 70 to 75% of Fantasyland feels that Mr. Jacobs is probably not worth investing in 2021, then this trade is not so bad to get yourself possible, top 15 receiver in Dynasty right now, with a possible top, 5, 6, maybe they bring in another quarterback, but I think Fitz can elevate him enough in 2021. So I like the trade. I'll say that. I think the trade is very fair, but I just had to point out, if you have a guy like Memphis in your leagues that really likes McLaurin, maybe you have to overpay a bit, but that's okay, because you feel like that stock will keep rising.
Yep.
Anything else, guys? Any other trades? Anything else? Our boy Mario's been very generous with his time.
Yeah, let's circle back one more time, since we've got somebody's up at 5 a.m. He reminds me that I forgot about he had an offer also of Ridley for Akers straight up.
That's a great conversation right now, because Dan Ridley, one of your favorites, Akers, obviously, one of mine and many people's favorites. Let's go to our guest, Mario. How do you feel about this? Is this like a direct trade, Dan? Any other information on this, or just straight flip?
Yeah, I think it's just a straight 1-for-1.
Okay.
Is it that same team from before?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, if that's a win now move and they're getting rid of Akers, then I guess I can't really do it, because I love Ridley, and I guess there's a case to make for putting him over Akers in Dynasty. But if you need to win this year, there's a reason why Akers is going in like the top 10, top 11, and he's got that 2021 high ceiling, high floor, and I don't think it's realistic that Ridley can match it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's adding a 26-year-old wide receiver who would become his wide receiver one. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because Ridley, I could see in the range of outcomes having a top 3 wide receiver season this year. So he could absolutely smash, as could Akers. And, draft-wise, we're seeing Ridley kind of creep up. So it's kind of a late first-round guy. If we're looking at it from redraft, it's a late first-round guy versus an early second-round guy at this point. So I could go either way. It's a very tempting offer If I could get another running back piece put in with Ridley, then I would consider doing it straight up. Your best chance of winning is always the bell cow.
Yeah. I mean, basically to me, you've got Ridley is going to be the safer option. He's less likely to, totally bomb out or whatever, and Akers, there's just more risk associated with Akers. But, there's, as Theo said, there's also a reason why he's going higher in redraft right now than what Ridley is. So I think that's a fair way to look at it. What do you think, JD?
If anyone cares, smash the accept on the Akers. For me, he's a top 5 running back in 2021. Again, guys, we saw this guy not only do it against one of the best defense in Washington, but in the playoffs, dude, destroy defenses like they were nothing. So for me, I like to see it. Like, if you show me what you can do, I'm ready to invest. And that's how I approach tight ends, and especially those second-year guys. So that's why I'm loving Gibby. That's why I'm loving Akers. For me, look, I love Ridley. Don't get me wrong. I don't know what's happening in that Atlanta offense. And I think people are ready to invest in guys like Pitts and Ridley. And we don't know what it looks like without Julio. We don't know what Ryan looks like without Julio. We don't know what that offense looks like, just in general. So for me, I look at what's happening in LA, the Rams. I love to have the RB1 in a really good offense, and I think that's going to be a really good offense. So for me, I lean Akers very easily, but that's just me.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, guys. We're at $130. We didn't even ask our guests. We've been very impolite. We gave him some challenges technically. We made him work on his IT support. We made him work tonight. So we're gonna go to him first. And Mario, man, I was excited about tonight. You're a guy that I've really enjoyed listening to. I always say, you think you have your ear to the ground in fantasy and you know everything that's going on that you need to know about. But a guy like Theo comes into the district and just reignites a new flame and has just brought, to me personally, some people that maybe I wasn't aware of or wasn't following. And I think that, like anything else, man, you got to be open, right, to what's out there. And I love the goodness that you're bringing on Rotowire, and just remind the people where they can find you. Remind him anything else that we didn't talk about or that you want to bring up before we close this out. But we appreciate you tonight. We appreciate your time. And that's it, man. Just give a little closing.
Well, first, you're way too generous, and I appreciate you guys having me on here. And thank you for your patience with my stupid technical issues. But yeah, I'm just we're getting kind of the season's approaching, and we're just kind of getting into the grind routine that we get into every year. I'm just gonna be doing like training camp breakdowns, and whenever news comes along, we got to try to figure out what it means for fantasy and say this ADP is good now, go get it, fade this one, all that kind of stuff. And it's just gonna pop up when time's available. And I'm gonna be doing the Friday and Saturday shows of SiriusXM Rotowire show with Jim Coventry. But otherwise, just gonna be trying to keep up with all the new info like you guys, I guess.
Wheeler's saying it, man. Smash the like. Mario is bringing the fire, and when you got a guy like Wheeler giving you that kind of praise, you know that it's legit. And look, guys, he's in the dark. And he's in high demand. So that says a lot. That says a lot, man. I'm bright. Nobody gives a shit what I'm saying. But dude is bringing the fire. You heard a lot of it tonight. Go check it out on Rotowire.
I was kind of wondering if you were in the witness protection program there.
I'm in a lit room. I don't know why I look so bad, but
I love it. And I love the reflection of the glasses of the screens. I love it. I love it. It's
normally
awesome.
I am in an unlit room. This is an exception. Me having this much light, even.
Well,
There you go.
Look, I'm going to say this. That's like 200 plus shows into this thing and whatever amount of years. People think this is easy to do. It ain't easy to get all your shit together to make this thing work, whether it's sound, video, graphics. Like, I got to say that we bring in guests, and like Mario's a perfect example. Like, dude is bringing some serious goodness. It's hard to figure all this shit out. So you cannot dock any points for any of the technical stuff. Hopefully you haven't docked points with us, because, you know, we've gone through the ups and the downs, right, Dan? I mean, we've seen it all, you know, everything's just collapsed pre-show, during the show, after the show, whatever, man. It's the technical aspect is a technical aspect. We promise to keep giving you the goodness. And Mario, just again tonight, he's bringing the goodness. Go check him out on the Rotowire. Theo, you keep, like, it's like you're my favorite fisherman. You know, you're just out there in the seas. You're like, yo, can I borrow your boat, dude? I'm going out there with the nets. You and Dan are busy working and shit. So I'm going to bring in some whales, and you've done that, and we appreciate that goodness. Remind the people what we have coming and what you have going on out there in Fantasyland.
So Mario was, our first guest in July. It was great coming on. This was a really strong show, and it's a guest that I've wanted to get on for a while. And yeah, we've got a lot of great guests lined up in July and now August. Our June slate was terrific. If anybody missed our shows in June, definitely give them a listen, because we have some great ones then. But yeah, you can find my writing on Breakout Finder and Player Profiler. I'll have a couple things come in the works coming up in the next couple of weeks. You can find me here on the GOAT District. Half Millie Billies, Andrew Schellenberg and I put together what's probably the football guys champion this year, I would say, last week with our Chargers stack. It's an unbelievable team. And we'll be stepping back in the streets to draft. There you go. And Kyle Pitts on that team as well at the lowest he's been drafted in.
He had to throw Pitts in there, eh?
I had to throw Pitts out there just for clout. So we got a Pitts share, and we're feeling good about things. So yeah, we'll be back on soon, and yeah, look for me on Twitter at the OG Fantasy, and this is awesome tonight, and we look forward to having you on maybe again, Mario.
That'd be awesome. I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mario is one of those guys I've been following on Twitter for years, and he just, you come up with a lot of stuff that I'm going, I never really thought about it that way. And that's fantastic. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, like for people that I'm following. I want people to come at me with something new, something I hadn't thought of, a little bit of a twist, whatever the case may be. And you definitely bring that. So if you're not following Mario out there on Twitter, definitely fix that.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? There's no way you're here.
Guys, that's how we feel here in the district. We that's what we're asking you guys on a weekly, on a daily, every time we drop an epi, man. We are asking you, are you not entertained? Because we want to bring you what matters and what helps you win. What gives you that edge. And again, Mario tonight, Dan and Theo, they're by my side just sniping. They're just goats, guys. Like, again, you hear the amount we joke about what Theo is doing on the FFPC, but guys, not too many people are doing that, and that's the difference, right? We're bringing people that are doing it, and we hope that we're helping you. We hope that we're bringing some goodness. And if we are, please smash that like, please smash the subscribe, share it. I always say, not to your league mates, maybe to your friends that you're not playing in leagues with, but share, subscribe, like. We appreciate any of that. Check out our friends over at myffpc.com, because they are literally the best site to play on. We don't bring anything on here unless we play on it, we agree with it, we like it. MyFFPC is one of them. Dynasty Depot, dynastydepot.com. You don't want to draft, maybe you want to buy an orphan to get in, try, dip your toes in, check out Dynasty Depot. VeridianGlobal.com, guys. We talked about it, the fishbowl, the goat gear. I hope you guys like what we're doing, guys, because it's just going to keep, it's just going to keep building, and we're going to keep bringing ways for you guys to win and get an edge. So subscribe, guys. We love what you guys are bringing. We love the love that you guys are bringing. Stay with us this offseason. Mario, we appreciate you. Dan, Theo, always a pleasure. Guys, be happy, be safe, and we'll check you all later.
district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.